And that's the Aviation Reconnaissance Force of 1 Regiment Army Air Corps. So on the naval side of the air station, over to the rear left corner where the big blue museum building is, that's the Wildcat Maritime Force, 815 Squadron, flying the Wildcat HMA-2 for the front line, and then 825 Squadron is the operational conversion unit, the training unit to support 815. Over in the centre of the air squadron, the air station, we've got the Army regiments, but over there is also 845 and 846, operating the Merlin Mark III, Merlin Mark IV helicopters out of the Commando Helicopter Force. On the south side, we've got 77.
Coming in from the left, the unmistakable shape of the bag, and it'll become very apparent why it's so nicknamed, the Westland Seaking ASAC-7 from 849 Naval Air Squadron at RNAS Culdrose, and the 2 Leonardo Wildcats from the Wildcat Maritime Force based here at Yeovilton. And over the top, another Yeovilton-based aircraft from the Royal Navy Historic Flight, the Hawker Sea Fury T-20. Welcome to Yeovilton and Fly Navy. Of the Fleet Air Arm of the Royal Navy, past, present and future. Breaking away there from our perspective, just passing over the top of Yeovilton Church, a sight that's not long for the skies in this part of the world in Royal Navy service, that of the Westland Seaking. It's incredible to think that the Sikorsky S-61 on which the Westland Seaking was based first flew as far back as March 1959, and it was 10 years later, May 1969, when the first Seaking HAS-1 anti-submarine helicopter for the Royal Navy took to the air, Westland at Yeovil having entered into a licensed production agreement with the American manufacturer Sikorsky. It was selected as a replacement in the anti-submarine role for the venerable Westland Wessex. Of course, it was also used extensively by the RAF as a search and rescue platform until retirement in 2015. There you see why this variant, the ASAC-7, ASAC standing for Airborne Surveillance and Control, is nicknamed the Bag. In that distinctive, retractable and inflatable radome can be found the Searchwater 2000 radar, the type first entered service in what was then the AEW, Airborne Early Warning role, in the aftermath of 1982's Falklands War, when the lack of airborne early warning assets in the South Atlantic theatre was deemed to have been a major concern. The first 2 Seaking AEW-2 conversions began in May 1982, fitted with the Searchwater radar, and they sailed aboard HMS Illustrious for the South Atlantic that August. They were too late to take part in the war itself, but they demonstrated the value of having shipboard airborne early warning able to aid intercepts by the Royal Navy's Sea Harrier Force. The fleet was built up to 13 conversions. 849 Naval Air Squadron was reformed in November 1984 to operate them. Then in the late 1990s, there was a major upgrade program, resulting in what we see here, the ASAC-7, with a far more capable version of the search water radar. During the 2003 Iraq War, helicopters like this flew from HMS Ark Royal, and they were much used in Afghanistan as well. In both theatres, much use was made of the aircraft's overland surveillance capabilities, tracking vehicles and people. And of course, in that context, the tactical data link is a vital tool in communications terms, allowing the transfer of information in real time to other suitably equipped friendly forces. In 2016, the last of the jungly Seakings, the Mark IVs of the Royal Navy, were retired, meaning that these ASAC-7s were the last Seakings left in UK military service. They're being retired, however, at the end of September this year. The new capability is being embodied in a Lockheed Martin-led project, Project Crow's Nest, in the Merlin Mark II fleet, and that in future will be a vital element of the protection of the new Queen Elizabeth-class carriers and the rest of the fleet. But these venerable Seakings, with one of its helicopters operating from Yeovilton to direct Royal Netherlands Air Force F-16s over the North Sea and the Northern Netherlands. Now, the Seaking era is coming to an end in the UK military after nearly 50 years. This is the last public flying display by one of the baggers before retirement. Being flown in very spirited fashion for us by the crew from 849 NAS. The crew headed by the unit's senior pilot, Lieutenant Commander Ian Chudley, who previously flew the Seaking in rescue guise with 771 Naval Air Squadron, and he's been a flying instructor on Eurocopter Squirrels with the Defence Helicopter Flying School at Shawbury. Also on board, the squadron's senior observer, Lieutenant Commander Serena Davidson, who's been performing that role since 2005 and has more than 2,200 hours on the Mark VII Seaking, and Lieutenant Ben Carthy, another former search and rescue Seaking pilot with 771 Squadron. When the Seakings are retired at the end of September, Lieutenant Commander Chudley, who was flying that display, will take over as Lieutenant Commander flying on board HMS Queen Elizabeth. Lieutenant Commander Davidson will take up a desk job at the Ministry of Defence in London, and Lieutenant Carthy will join the Yeovilton-based 727 Squadron on the Grob Tutor. The aircraft that was in the display today was first flown as a Mark VI anti-submarine variant in 1980. Mark V it would have been then, but later upgraded to Mark VI standard. It was converted to Mark VII ASAC configuration in 2002, and it's amassed in excess of 10 Royal Navy's opening display. Look out to the left once again, because the slightly delayed arrival of the Royal Air Force Aerobatic team, the Red Arrows, is about to happen. In come their Hawks on the break to land. So the 9 Hawks in the circuit. I was expecting the 10th, but obviously the spare not with us currently, if indeed they're bringing it to land on here today. The Red Arrows, of course, one of the highlights of our flying programme today, which will run through until just before 4:45. The Reds themselves will be on slot just after a half-hour lunch break. Their display starting at 1 o'clock. While the Reds are landing, now would be a good time, I think, to remind you that you don't need us to tell you, but it is worth a quick reminder anyway. It is extremely hot today, and the temperatures are only going to rise over the course of the day. There are various free water points around the showground. Dave listed them earlier on. We obviously advise you to keep yourselves very well hydrated over the course of the day, and also to apply sun cream as and when you need it, or take shade, or whatever you need to do to protect yourself from the glare of the sun. And also, it won't have escaped your attention that the grass on which you're probably standing, if you're watching the flying display from the main crowd area, is absolutely tinder dry. So if you do feel the need to smoke, make sure that you stub it out safely without causing a grass fire, because it would be very easy for that to happen given the fact that we've had this prolonged dry spell. So thank you all very much for your cooperation in that, because we want you, as I said earlier, to enjoy a safe and comfortable day with us and not to be feeling the effects of the sun too badly when you get home. Yes, it's a boring parish notice to have to read out as an air display, but we have all been there, those of us who've been in air show crowds, forgotten to take proper measures against the sun. So make sure you do. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's what happened with my smartphone. I got stuff from Vulcan, F-16, Griffin, military back level, all that sort of stuff. They're going to put that old phone now for years.
So as the last of the Red Arrows make their way into land, we now resume our opening Royal Navy segment of the show and a flare-laden Wildcat roll demo, Dave.
Yeah, Ben, so this is a helicopter that's very close to my heart because it's the one I fly day in, day out and the one I instruct on. And it's the Wildcat HMA-2, Helicopter Maritime Attack.